one.
Well, this is Radio Caribbean International. Now it's time for the lunchroom here with Mr. Urban Dolor.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Urban Dolor, and I'm sitting in for Kenneth George Jr., and I'm in the lunchroom on this last Friday of the month. In fact, not only the last Friday of the month, it is also the last day of the month. As always, I start off by telling you some of the principles that guide my discourse and discussions. I insist that nothing is absolute, that reality is composed by the individual, that cultural influences more often than not determines our actions and our reactions, and fourthly, the supernatural does not exist. Having said so, having given you the capsule for my discussions and my discourse, I will now give you some of the important events that occurred on this date, 28th of February, in history. In 1646, Roger Scott is tried in Massachusetts for sleeping in church. In 1667, the English colony Suriname comes under Dutch control. Previously, it was under British control. In 1704, Frenchman Elias Nuo opens a school for blacks in New York City. Reminds me of a school that I attended in St. Croix, which was for aliens. In 1909, First National Women's Day is observed in the United States, organized by the Socialist Party of America in honor of the 1908 garment workers' strike in New York, where women protested against working conditions. Of course, we know that next week, on the 8th of February, it will be International Women's Day around the world. In 1940, the first televised basketball game was played with the University of Pittsburgh beating Fordham University 50-37. In 1952, Vincent Massey is sworn in as the first Canadian-born Governor General of Canada. Before that, of course, we would have had the same situation that we had in the Caribbean, where the Governor General was in a sense brought in. He was imported into the country. In 1953, Francis Crick and James Watson discovered the chemical structure of the DNA molecule using X-ray diffracted studies developed by a lady, Rosalind Franklin, and Maurice Wilkin. In 1982, A&T loses a record $7 billion for the fiscal year ending on that day. And in 2024, Oprah Winfrey says she is stepping down from the board of Weight Watchers and selling her shares months after she confirmed taking prescription drugs to lose weight. It appears that she was promoting one thing but doing something else. So these were the important events that happened on this date in history.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
So, we have a major event which is happening today, which will be the AMBC Caribbean Boxing Championship. And for those of us, well, not for those of us, but I really ought to have told you that AMBC will be the American Boxing Confederation, and that is the organization that oversees boxing in the Americas. The event is scheduled to take place between February 28th, or starting today, and goes on to the March 2nd at the Bosses U indoor facility. This regional tournament will feature over 120 boxers from various Caribbean nations, with St. Lucia fielding a 15-member team from Castries and Beaufort. The event marks the return of the championships to St. Lucia for the first time since 2015, highlighting the island's growing prominence in Caribbean boxing. The AMBC Boxing Championship is a regional amateur boxing tournament, meaning that the participants are not going to get paid, unlike what we hear of when they have boxing competitions with millions of dollars, as they say, passing hands. The tournament is organized under the auspices of the American Boxing Confederation, which oversees boxing in America. This event specifically focuses on the Caribbean region, bringing together boxers from various Caribbean regions to compete in a structured, sanctioned competition. It serves as a platform for amateur boxers to showcase their skills, gain competitive experience, and potentially qualify for larger international tournaments. The championship features bouts across multiple weights for both male and female athletes, adhering to international amateur boxing rules. The 2025 edition will take place, as I said, in St. Lucia from February 28th to March 8th, and will be a big opportunity for St. Lucians to come out to see some top-class boxing. Again, I said it will be held in the indoor facility at Bosseju. Historically, the event has been a significant stepping stone for Caribbean boxers, fostering talent, development, and regional rivalry. Its return to St. Lucia after last being held here, as I said, in 2015, is important to both the local and regional boxing community. So that was our daily dish for the day.
This has been the Daily Dish.
Last Friday, we had a discussion on the statement made by the Minister of Education that he was disappointed that boys did not participate in the education system to the extent that girls did. Before I continue on to speak a little more about that, because we didn't complete our discussion on that, and in fact, we didn't complete discussion on a number of topics during the week, and so I take this opportunity today to wrap up some of these issues. Let me remind the listeners that you can start calling in as early, because we have the numbers we have 452-3046 if you're going to use a regular line, and also so the WhatsApp number is 758-724-008. Yes, so I was saying, importantly, we looked at the whole question of the performance of boys in the education system. We have a call on the line. Let's take the call. Hello? Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I need to ask you a question. Do you think that bringing back corporal punishment into school is going to make a difference? Because I realize, due to the fact that there's you have people calling to bring back corporal punishment into schools. And I cannot see how corporal punishment could change, because growing up as a child going to school, the children that were getting licks at school the most were the same children that were getting beaten at home by their parents. And it didn't make a difference. Because how is that you're being beaten at home almost every day for everything you do? You come to the school, you're angry, you're upset, you're getting beat at school again by the teacher who says you just maybe you have no idea what's going on with you. So I just find people are being very reactive, asking for children to be beaten. Maybe that's what they think will discipline children into getting them to stay with. No, I think it's communication. A lot of talking to children. A lot of what I realize, children are not even allowed to express themselves. I work in a school, and it's a Montessori school, where we give children the freedom to express themselves. So there's nothing like beating. A child does something that is wrong. Come on, we put them to sit together and start questioning them on why you did that. Do you think what you did was right? Do you think there was another way you could have done it? Regardless of how young they are. And children express themselves. But now we feel everything is about beating because you have children that come from preschools, early childhood. And when they get into the primary of things, they just suddenly get very, very reserved, very quiet. They don't do much talking. And these are the children that will be talking so much at your home. Again, you see a different side of them. I do not understand why you always feel is a beating that would make children.
But do you think that that may have to do with often quoted statement that when we spare the rod, we spoil the child?
No, I don't believe in that. When you spare the rod with the child, I mean it's in the there, but I do not think so. This is in the Bible, but I don't think it's all about you beating, and that's what, because there was one young child living, about 8 years old, living next to me, and he was being beaten as if it's medication that was being given to him. It's like you take medication morning and night time, so it was like that's how he was getting exercise, medication. And then when I called the stepdad and I told him that he was in patois, he said the spoil, and he was telling me that in patois and the child is very troublesome. But then when I would have this little boy at my home when the mom is not there, because she would leave me by him by me, because she was the one that was beating him. And then I never had problems with him because I would talk to him, I would question him, I would give him a book to read, and then after reading the book, I would tell him, come on, tell me what you read in that book, tell me what you understood, just different things. But I do not understand why people say it's just about abuse, because why do we have so many angry people?
Why do we have so many angry people? Do you think we have angry people, or it is that people are not trained or are not sufficiently aware to express how they feel? Let me just say that there is
pent up anger. I would say that have a lot of.
Okay, just now. There is a movement which is we call it nonviolent communication, NVC for short. And the point that is being made is that we very often do not express our feelings, and so we have a difficulty with people understanding us, and people have difficulty, and we have a difficulty because we don't express ourselves, and so people have a difficulty understanding us, and the way that we can sometimes demonstrate how we feel about something is by lashing out. What's your take on that?
Because we don't allow them to talk from small. It's from very small it starts. As if when you're a child, you're between your 3 and going up there, you don't have a voice. Yeah, I'm the adult, and you only speak when I speak to you, and still we have this mentality. A child should be. Children sometimes might say something to you, and you'll find that child is rude. But this child is just, I'm giving you a simple example. There was a little boy in my class, and then I put him to sit to write his name. He took almost half an hour. It was 2 teachers in the class. Going by him, it was not a question, it was a statement. Since what time I gave you to write your name? And he looked up and his response was, I don't know, I don't have a watch. Now, another person.
And what did you do? What did you say?
I went in a quiet corner. I laughed it out. And because at the time, I did not felt it was a rude answer he gave me. He just likes to express himself in a free way. And then I'm saying, I
find that such a very interesting example, because I mean, it is true that the child didn't have a watch, so perhaps in addition to that, we now go on to say to him, okay, well, you don't have a watch, but here are some places where you could have found the time, where you could have kept track of the time, and so on. Because what we know, I mean, what the psychology tells us is that you don't only tell people what they shouldn't do, right? That's not as helpful as telling them what they should do, because very often, yeah.
Listen to me again. This was a 4 to 5 year old. Because it came out so funny that I had to go laugh.
Yeah, you can. I mean,
and then came back to him and tell him, you know what? I know you don't have a watch, but since the time, what were you doing? Well, didn't you really want to write? I questioned him about it, and then he understood, and he finally. Because sometimes what we do is we just tell children things.
Oh, it was my grandmother. I would have to go and extract look for a tooth somewhere, because I would get a maybe two, because I get a you know what they call a palabui, and I can give I can give a little incident that I had where my grandmother told me that hard work never hard work never kill anybody. Right, and I don't want to be the first. Well, boy, I wouldn't tell you. I don't want to tell you what happened after that. But yes. So we have a situation where, unfortunately, we are prone to beating children, and then we start off. The thing about it is that we start at such an early age, and we say, oh, the child cannot understand anything else. But at the end of the day, and the truth is, we never expose the children to anything else. And unfortunately, as well, is that there continues a very vicious cycle where, because one person didn't have skills to speak, to express themselves, and so on, then it goes on that they now have to interact with somebody, or interact with children themselves, or with other people, and they have no other recourse than to get into violence. I mean, you know what has always surprised me, and I'm going to ask you what you think of that. The Bible tells us that Cain killed Abel. What do you think was responsible for that?
Cain was jealous of Abel.
Cain was jealous of Abel.
Cain was full of anger because maybe one was. And I just tell me that story about Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you another story where a 4-year-old listened to. She was told the story about Cain and Abel. And when he asked Cain for his brother, he said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Now, after hearing that story, a little girl, a family member of mine, free at time, she misplaced her shoe. When they asked her, "Where is your shoe? Get your shoes." Her answer was, Am I my shoes keeper?
Exactly. Very good answer. Very good answer. So the interesting thing here is that, and you make a point that Cain was jealous of Abel.
Yes.
Cain was jealous of Abel. But why was Cain jealous of Abel? Because, now I'll tell you, because Cain brought fruits as his offer. Right? And Abel brought a lamb. God recognized the gift from Abel, but didn't recognize and respect the gift from Cain. So right there and then, as you said, a jealousy started. But look at who started the jealousy. I mean, as a parent, you need to ensure that you recognize the efforts of everybody, all, and to ensure that, because to my mind, it seems to me that jealousy is a natural phenomenon, and that comes out whenever you feel that somebody has bested you. But there again, there's so many issues related to that. I mean, it's really something that we need to consider, explore, and find out why it is that there's so much anger, and as I mean, where it is that people react in ways that are violent. Now, at the end of it all, I say this, to my mind, I don't think it is possible to remove all anger and bad behavior at any given point. We will not. I don't think we can get there, because there is a range. Let's start there. However, I believe that there are mechanisms that we can put in place. I think that there are steps we can take. I think that there are interventions we can make so that we have less of it, and that if it does happen, the effects are lessened.
And that is where men come in.
That's
That is where men come in, because too many men, it's all about abuse for them.
no, but then no.
I mean, women abuse.
I mean, it might. Okay, I think you make the point that men abuse, yes, and the suggestion, the understanding here is that men are more, in terms of the physical thing, men are stronger than women, are more like, and so a man is more likely to be able to control a woman, and so but some women are responsible in some cases for starting that violent sex cycle too, because, like, for example, like a lot of children, they grow up with their mother, right? And I mean, the mother beat the daylight out of them. Sometimes people say because they frustrated. They frustrated. The man the man not there, the man not providing anything, whether money or otherwise, and so all of those issues. But for me, it is that we need to look at multiple approaches, and we need to be clear on what interventions we're taking so that we can make a difference. Because as it is now, we certainly can't continue like that. Let me thank you for your contribution, and you continue to take care of yourself. Have a good weekend.
I will take care.
All right. So we had this intervention by this caller who was obviously very concerned about certain issues. And you would note she said she works in a Montessori school. I tell you, the Montessori school has a completely different approach to education. So, for example, the children tend to play quite a bit. They tend to be given projects, and so from a very, very early age. And I'm told that sometimes the children have a difficult time transitioning from a Montessori school to the regular school. And hopefully there'll come a time when we will be able to have structures in place that the school system will in fact allow our students to have almost like a Montessori experience. So what we will do at this time, we will take the weather report, and when we come back, our guest will be in place.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dolor. We take a break now for the latest weather report as of 12 noon today. It is the 28th day in the month of February 2025. And like I said, the weather is brought to you by Island Style Thailand Bath.
Island Style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah, we make your dream come alive in Island Style. We have times and things, set pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rodney Bay on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's gas station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style. This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
It most certainly is. The weather report is as of 12 noon today for the 28th of February 2025. Our forecast at this hour, Venantius Descartes. Let's take a look at the weather of the forecast for St. Lucia, valid for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing between the east, southeast, and the east near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. The weather, partly cloudy and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with a few brief showers. Again, the winds blowing between the east, southeast, and the east near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour, with the weather partly cloudy and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with a few brief showers. On to the marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. High tide for the Castries Harbor at 16 after 4 this afternoon. The low tide at 12 minutes after 10 tonight. And for the Vieux Bay, the high tide at 23 after 5 this afternoon. The low tide at 21 minutes before midnight. The seas are moderate to locally rough. The waves 5 to 7 feet, the same as 1.5 to 2.1 meters in open waters. Small craft operators, seabathers, you are advised to exercise caution, and that is due to that is due to locally rough seas. Oh, no longer above normal, but now locally rough. So please again, be guided. For the Lesser Antilles, we are looking at partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy skies with scattered brief showers. And the weather summary indicates the Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate easterly winds and above normal seas across the eastern Caribbean during the next few days. And the patches of low-level clouds drifting along with the wind flow will cause occasional cloudy periods with light showers over some parts of the region during the forecast period. A recap of the weather summary. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate easterly winds and above normal seas across the eastern Caribbean during the next few days. And patches of low-level clouds drifting along with the wind flow will cause occasional cloudy periods with light showers over some parts of the region during the forecast period. That's the official weather report. You can join us again in the morning at around 7 thereabout. It's going to be the next official weather report from the Met Service on this station. Don't forget, there's an advisory out for small craft operators and seabathers to exercise caution due to locally rough seas. Thank you, Financials, for the update at this time. The weather was made possible by Island Style Talent Bar.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah, we make your dream come alive in Island style. We have tiles and princess, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. Quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rodney Bay on the John Crompton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I am very, very pleased to say to you that we have our brand new, recently minted Canada's High Commissioner to St. Lucia, and this is very likely her very first interview and radio broadcast since she presented her credentials. We have had a little chat before we started the program, and I have permission from Her Excellency to refer to her as High Commissioner. Welcome, High Commissioner.
Thank you.
I didn't say her name, I don't think, but her name is Brenda Mills, and we're very, very happy to have you. What I will do is I will start off by just allowing you to speak generally on some of the projects you've visited, some of the things you intend to do, and so on. And once that has happened, I will then ask you for clarification and so on.
Sounds great. Thank you. Well, it's an absolute pleasure for me to be here. It's my first trip to St. Lucia, and indeed my first media interview. And I absolutely am honored and privileged to be Canada's High Commissioner for St. Lucia. I arrived on Wednesday and have had a full program since I arrived, and I really enjoy these trips. I cover Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. And whenever I am presenting credentials for the first time, I want to make sure I get as much understanding of the culture and the country on each of these visits. So we've had a busy schedule that will continue on for the rest of the day. And I want to wish a belated happy independence. I regret that I wasn't able to be here for that celebration, but we'll add it to the list of things I must do next year, and look forward to seeing the National Pride come out on that visit. But I do intend during my 4-year tenure to visit St. Lucia on numerous occasions. So look forward to maintaining and even growing stronger our bilateral relationship, but also Canada's relationship with CARICOM more broadly. And so one major area of focus for me is to continue the good work that's already begun under our Canada CARICOM strategic partnership, which was launched in October 2023. And so under this strategic partnership, we've outlined some sectors for collaboration, which include building inclusive and sustainable economies, bolstering regional security, and advancing climate resilience. And so this is really the foundation for the bilateral engagement that Canada has here in St. Lucia, and informs my mandate. And so far, as you pointed out, I presented my credentials. That was yesterday with Prime Minister Philip Pierre, had a lovely chat about our shared priorities, our shared interests. I also had the opportunity to meet this morning with Minister of External Affairs, Alva Baptiste, and yesterday as well with Deputy to the Governor General, Felix Finisterre. And what comes through in all of my interactions so far is the very close and enduring people-to-people ties that Canada has with St. Lucia. And just areas where we are working well together. One such area is TVET, so Technical Vocational Education Training. And so Canada is pleased. We were an early supporter to the Caribbean Future Skills Fund, which is a planned regional fund initiated and led by CARICOM countries, and with the aim of building a workforce that can capitalize on technological innovation and contribute to inclusive and sustainable economies in the Caribbean. So we're very excited about that. You have a lot of Canadian tourists that come to St. Lucia. I believe it's around 40,000 every year or recent years. I have a strong trade and investment background in my diplomatic career. I've served abroad in 5 countries prior to my current role, and predominantly in the trade stream. So working on international business development, but also trade policy and negotiating trade agreements. And so I'm particularly interested in seeing how we can build Canada's commercial relations with the countries under my purview. And so some of my meetings as well, for instance, yesterday we met with officials from Ministry of Energy as well as Ministry of Finance, and some beneficiaries of some of our international assistance, which is focusing on helping St. Lucia and other countries with their energy transition, so moving towards renewable energies. And I see possibilities for Canadian companies in the region in that space as well. So there's I think lots of space for our bilateral relations to grow, our relations in the region to grow. And I'm just absolutely delighted that I have this mandate for 4 years, and look forward to engaging with St. Lucians on all my visits, and continuing to foster even closer ties.
Thank you very much for that, High Commissioner. Let me see that I'm very much aware of the efforts of the Canadians as it relates to technical assistance. You may not, I'm almost sure that you've been told of the Castries Comprehensive School.
Indeed, yes.
Indeed,
and
yeah,
I had it pointed out to me as well.
And you had it pointed out to you. And
Yes.
if you saw one of the students, the uniform is red and white. And that is because, of course, Canada was responsible for providing all of the equipment and some teachers for that school, right? Indeed, the Canadians were also you're also responsible for establishing what is now the Division of Technical Education at the Salvador's Community College, where I worked when I was a younger person. So we had all of the equipment, and so was actually provided by Canada. One of the things I want to help, so you could help me and the listeners better understand, is how does bilateral relations, how does that differ from other types of diplomatic relations? So that at least in my head, I am clear on what is what.
So bilateral relations would be Canada and St. Lucia specifically. And so if I go back to the TVET example, we have a project which has more countries involved. It's called SAGE, and it is currently helping young people here to gain skills relevant to some needs in the workplace. So yesterday, just as an example, we met with the National Skills Development Center, and they're working with institutes and colleges Canada on training programs, and we got to see firsthand successful apprentices of a program that was focused on landscaping, and there was collaboration with the TVET Council to get certifications. So we went to Cabot, which is a Canadian-owned development, and we got to meet with the landscapers that benefited from the programming and the skills training. So that's just one example that I can drill down to that's affecting St. Lucia specifically.
And in fact, I can provide another example of the kind of relationship that CARICOM has had with Canada, and that would be a program that just went ended. I think it should have started as a 2-year program and it ended up being a 6-year program, which should have been a program called Impact Justice, right? And that Impact Justice was a program that helped provide lots of training for persons to become better at ADR, for example, alternative dispute resolution methods. And in fact, I can say that I actually benefited from that, so that I'm one of the mediators in St. Lucia. So I benefited from that partnership between CARICOM and Canada already.
I do have one more bilateral example in the education space.
But of course.
Another great one that's quite recent is a collaboration with the Ministry of Education and 3 researchers from universities in Canada coming here to assist with special education, specifically inclusive education for autistic kids. So there's lots of examples. We could probably have an hour-long program or longer to go over all of the collaboration, but that's just one more timely example.
And which would be these institutions, and more specifically, what are they doing?
So it was 3 researchers, and it was from, let me just check, I don't want to get it wrong. So it was Memorial University, Wilfrid Laurier University, and Western University. So that was in November 2024. Those 3 Canadian researchers came down at the invitation of the Special Education Unit of the Ministry of Education. And so it was to provide specialized autism training to educators. And so multiple research and partnership development meetings were also held in relation to inclusive education. So there you go.
So can I tell you something?
Yes.
So I'm so happy to hear my alma mater being mentioned. Because I studied at Western.
Okay.
Althouse, more specifically in education. And again, that was through, I imagine that would be one of the multilateral relations, because I went there through the Commonwealth Scholars arrangement. So it's a small world,
It is.
Yeah. But you also spoke about the whole question of having an inclusive economy and making things inclusive. You may want to talk about that as well as any other thing that you find important and critical.
Well, I think supporting technical and vocational skills, as I mentioned, is a key pillar, and that will contribute to resilience and sustainable economic growth. If you're training youth some of the youth become entrepreneurs, start businesses, give back to their communities. So that's sustainable economic growth, because you're giving skills to young people or others as well in order to create their own economic growth and wealth, and then to contribute to St. Lucia's economy. So that's one example. I think we also want to continue to build those commercial ties. We have quite a number of Canadian companies present here, investors here, and I know a lot of our companies have an eye on how can they give back to the communities. And so we met this morning actually with the Chamber of Commerce and had a discussion about companies' interests in hiring interns, passing on skills, building the workforce. So we see helping support those efforts as sustainable economic growth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. In relation to some of the activities, some of the initiatives that you intend to foster, how do you see that playing out in relation to some of the other, notwithstanding that you're talking about bilateral relationships with St. Lucia, but do you have any initiatives that will take into account and look for sort of better use of resources if you have things happening in more than one country, because maybe the problem might in St. Vincent or Grenada or Dominica. I think you've been to Dominica, right?
I have, yes. Yeah.
So how is there any are there any programs that you think can be sort of used throughout in the different countries rather than just St. Lucia, notwithstanding that you have a bilateral relationship with St. Lucia?
Yeah, so a lot of our international assistance covers more than one country, depending on the needs of a country. So there is that level of coordination and information sharing so that we are taking best practices into each country.
Mm-hmm.
I would yesterday, for instance, we were one of our programs, which is assisting a number of countries in the region to access climate finance. It involves a number of climate finance advisors in a number of countries. And so we're sharing information across the advisors.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, as part of all of our international assistance, monitoring visits in case we need to pivot in how we're delivering on our projects, and also to learn from them and apply differently in other countries. So I think that inherently is part of our process. And I think the fact that you have the OECS, and we engage with the Eastern Caribbean as a group to a certain extent, and then we engage with CARICOM as a group.
Mm-hmm.
There's openings for sharing of information. And I'll give one more example. So last week in Barbados, there was the CARICOM Heads of Government Conference, and our Minister of International Development, Minister Hussein, was there as a special guest, and we were able to meet with the caucus, so all of the heads of government, and he sparked a conversation, in fact, about education and technical vocational training, and there was a lot of discussion about common challenges and ways that we could work together. So I think we also help to bring countries together to have these conversations. It's top of mind for many countries, but we're very pleased to be contributing to the development of TVET.
Let me just mention the phone number that our listeners can call you.
Oh, they can call in.
They can call in, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the number they can call, that they will call on, is 452-3046. 452-3046, regular line. And if you want to call using WhatsApp, it is 758-724-0008. Is there any other matter you want to raise before I ask you about your impressions of the Caribbean and St. Lucia in particular?
Well, maybe I can share some pride in my own heritage, because before we came in here, we had a nice conversation about my background, being an Indigenous person from Canada. And I think so I'm Red River Métis, as you're aware, and I have a lot of pride in my identity, and I'm always excited to share with others about my history. And what I have found very fulfilling is in the Caribbean, being able to engage with other Indigenous groups and to understand their growth and development, and seeing where we could find linkages.
Before you continue, is that why you went to Dominica first?
I did go to Dominica, and I did go to the Kalinago territory. I wouldn't say it's why I went first, but
you're a diplomat, so you couldn't say that, right? But the thing about it, once you begin to understand people, you can pick up little things. There you are. Yeah, well, we understand. In St. Lucia, we have a group of persons, and you would find them mostly the west, south, and we say they're really sort of indigenous people, and they mostly Caribs. So so we have our own share. So the next time you come, maybe you might take a visit.
I should plan for that for sure. Yes.
The next time you go, and you. By the way, don't think we're not. I personally not holding you. I'm not holding you to your promise to be here for next year's independence celebrations.
It's an aspiration that I hope I deliver on. No, I really enjoy them because I feel you understand the country better when you see the people of the country celebrating their nation. So if I can be here, I'll absolutely be here.
Yes. But yes, as I said, you can call in to the High Commissioner, Canada's High Commissioner to St. Lucia, Excellency Brenda Mills. You can call at 452-3046, and she was saying to us something about her pride and so on. So, yes.
Well, so on top of being Red River Métis, I'm also from a very small town in Manitoba in Canada. And so I hope that I also, through my role, help inspire young people, no matter what their backgrounds are, to pursue their dreams, because this is something I've wanted to do since I was 15 years old. And here I am. So I'm absolutely
15
delighted.
years old, that's like about 10 years ago.
A little more than that. But yeah. So I've enjoyed the role of being a diplomat, and so for me, this has been my career objective, and I'm so pleased that I'm in the Caribbean. It's beautiful here. The warmth of the people, the ties. I'll be very honest. I didn't have a full appreciation of just how deep our ties, our people to people ties, ran, and I knew they existed, but it's more than I could have imagined. Which is great for our relationship.
Yes, all of that, because you know what they say about the importance of soft skills and sort of emotional ties, and so it's not just, you don't just come into the job with sort of the technical aspect, if you wish, but you also come to it with that understanding of people who are from small towns. You say you're from a small town. About how big is it?
200 people. Really small.
I mean, you could have said micro,
It's more like a village, wouldn't it be? It might be more like a village.
Maybe a small village?
Yeah, perhaps.
You see us, that's even more like 200 people. Wow. Because, I mean, when you compare that size to places that, you have millions of people, I mean, even some of the cities in Canada would have a few more people than that. But yeah, so it certainly provides a different perspective, I think, on life in general. Because let's take a very simple example. I mean, let's take healthcare. If you're from a town with about a large town, say 1 million or so, or even hundreds of thousands, you are likely to have a hospital that can provide a number of different services, complicated services and complicated operations and so on. But coming from a small town, you understand that having a hospital, to cater for, in our case, 180,000, but you understand even better, if you have 200,000, there's no way you can have a hospital in your town.
Correct, yeah.
That can provide those kinds of services. I mean, and so you certainly come, I think, with a perspective that can only redound to the benefit of what you have to do.
And I think Canadians are used to driving long distances too. The country is so big, so we could always drive to a hospital, whether you need some time.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just building on your education background,
Yeah.
We continue to have institutions in Canada, education institutions that are recruiting students from St. Lucia. So we're still seeing a healthy flow of students, and that will also continue to help us foster closer ties and bring some expertise from our universities here.
Yes. And certainly, even outside of the relationships with, let's say, the Commonwealth, and so there are persons who have gone to Canada to study as private students. So that is something that's important. Talking about that, you spoke about the whole question about you've been speaking to business people with a view to establishing and fostering the ties, commercial ties. So other than well, we have Cabot, we know we're well known Cabot. Real estate, I imagine. Education is another important one that we get services from Canada. Are there any others that you want to?
Yeah, so we want to explore opportunities in clean technologies and clean technologies.
Okay.
So that can be
related
things
to climate change and so on. I imagine.
Yeah, and but it could be to energy efficiency. Conversation yesterday was around, the move to renewable energy, but also making sure that there's energy efficiency built in. And so, and as we're trying to address climate change, obviously using clean technologies would be beneficial. And blue economy as well is of interest. So we have
just expand a little bit and see blue. What exactly?
Yeah, so it could be ocean technologies. It could be for boats. Could be using different types of coatings on ships so that they're using less fuel. I think blue economy can be quite broad, but generally in relation to water and but on clean technologies, it can even fall in the space of water management, wastewater, that type of thing. And I understand that there are needs here in St. Lucia, and so I will be heading back. I have a trade team in Barbados to see that we look into what sort of needs exist here more specifically, and see if we have some Canadian companies that could pursue those opportunities. So that's the goal of a High Commission, is to be eyes and ears on the ground and find opportunities and areas for collaboration. So it's my first trip, so I feel I'm just scratching the surface, and then we'll see. But I would love to come back on the show in a year or whenever I come back and tell you how all that's going.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure you'll be more than welcome to be on the show. Don't forget, folks, the number to call. You have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to speak with the Canadian High Commissioner to St. Lucia. The number to call is 452-3046.
Maybe the links are so close that everyone knows so much about Canada that there's no burning questions.
That may very well be true, I mean, because I'll hazard a guess and say that every St. Lucian knows somebody who knows somebody in Canada, or who has a person who has migrated to Canada.
Absolutely. I see that all the time when I meet new people here.
Yeah.
Everyone I've met on this trip in the last 3 days has either studied in Canada, has family in Canada, at the very least has visited Canada.
At the very least, yeah. It turns out that I think I qualify for all three.
There you go.
So yes. So what do you see as some of the major or a major challenge, or in a sense to what you are attempting to do?
So I think I'm taking on this role at an interesting time globally. There's a lot of uncertainty at present, and I think it's important for all of us to look at how we can work together in the face of challenges, and where we can find opportunities together. And so obviously when I was appointed last year, I was not expecting as much uncertainty as currently exists, but we will find ways to collaborate and work through it. So there you go. That's, I think, the biggest challenge at the moment.
I could never be a diplomat, because you've said it so nicely, that that there's uncertainty. I mean, because with all these tariffs and so on, I mean, clearly these are things that will have major impact on us, on you, and there was a time when there was a phrase. I imagine it still holds, that when the United States of America catches a cold, we in the Caribbean sneeze.
Yes, I've heard that.
You've heard that, right?
I've heard that.
And I can well imagine that a similar relationship or similar situation exists as it, in Canada and America. In that, if America has the flu, then Canada would be perhaps looking for tissue, because they might have a runny nose.
Perhaps we have the medication.
You probably have a medication.
Perhaps.
Of course. I'm sure that Canadians have proven themselves to be very resourceful, very resilient, and your term ends in 4 years, right?
Yes.
That's not the only term that will end in 4 years.
We'll see what happens in the next 4 years. But we, the Canada-US relationship is strong. We're highly integrated. We will work with the US through the next while to address what's on each other's minds, and then we will stay engaged in the hemisphere and in the region. We've been a steadfast partner for the countries in CARICOM and the Caribbean more broadly, and so during my mandate that will continue, and I'll continue to advance our interests and find ways to collaborate.
I can use one analogy of the family. After all, we are family, if nothing else, because we are both realms of the king, and I'm so reminded of the sort of inspiration that one can get, because you know that there's somebody, a bigger brother, that is looking out for you. And Canada has looked out for the Caribbean from time immemorial. Again, you may not know it, but there were two boats that you know about it, right? Yes. I can see you smiling, right? That Canada gave to the Caribbean, well, in the time of the Federation, the West Indies Federation, and Federal Maple and the Federal Palm, and clearly that would have been an opportunity, an initiative where a bigger brother was looking out for a smaller brother or smaller sibling, let's say sibling, to be gender. I know Canadians gender neutral all the way, so it's always good to have a bigger sibling looking out for a younger sibling. And
we're partners.
Yeah, we're partners. Yeah,
and friends.
But at the end of it all, there are certain connections between people who share at least some of the chromosomes, and so that you wouldn't just get. At least you don't start there, but we start with the chromosomes being similar.
Absolutely.
Any final words that you want to share with us?
It's just a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for spending time with me, allowing me to share a little bit about my background and also Canada's priorities and interests here in St. Lucia and also in the region. And I look forward to seeing what we can do together during my mandate, and look forward to coming back on a future visit. Thank you.
Pleasure has been ours, and will continue to be ours to have you. And if at any time you think you want to do something is coming up and you want to sort of prepare for it, you can always call us. We could always do a Zoom, not a Zoom, sorry, a WhatsApp call, and if necessary, we can do a Zoom interview as well. We may not have to do it. We may not do it in the studio, but these are some of the things that we can arrange.
Great.
Yeah. So it was really a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to interacting with you in the future.
Thank you.
So, folks, this was our esteemed Canada's High Commissioner to St. Lucia, and as you can well tell, we were elated to have her in the lunchroom. This is my last day standing in for Calix George, and I could not have ended on a grander note. So it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. And so, folks, as we continue on to the weekend, don't forget, be careful, be safe. If you're going to drink, don't drive, and if you're going to drive, don't drink, because after all, we can't afford to continue just losing our resources in such a silly way. So I'm out of it. Take care and continue to be good.